So welcome back to MVP Podcast, Season 3, Episode 31. We have Victoria Hannu here from bright and sunny Denver, Colorado. I'm imagining it's still sunny out there.
It is. It's getting cooler, but it's sunny.
Yeah, we're actually going to hit 80 today, which is, I think, good for us in terms of where we're at in the year. Yeah, we were talking offline with Colorado being the one place I've gone to where I was shoveling and doing summer activities, or what I would consider summer activities when I was out in Denver. It was a super cool place to live, or I didn't live, but visit. The people who live there, you are lucky. You're avoiding the Midwest weather, which you're from Minnesota. Well, I found out right before the show. So we get to welcome back another Midwesterner onto the show. But Victoria, let's get into what you do. You're not specifically in real estate, but you do help out real estate professionals from what I gather. So first off, welcome to the show. And two, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and how you help these various professionals outside of just real estate?
So what I do is I work with businesses and I help them to create a legacy, so that a business can live for 100 years beyond the business owner right now. And I specialize in working with family businesses, multi-owner businesses, and businesses that want to create a family-friendly environment. So it's around people. And my primary industries I work in are marketing and advertising, the building trades, everything connected to the real estate industry, plumbing, electricity, disaster restoration, construction. One of my clients is a framing company right now. And then I also work with the design industry, architects, interior designers, and some fashion design. So it's all around things that make the world beautiful and creative, and people who really care about what they do and putting quality out.
Yeah. And that is important. Me and my foreman go back and forth. And I actually just started following this guy on Instagram. He's an inspector, but he makes inspectors, I feel bad. They get a bad rap because they're the bad cop in every situation. They're always going to tell you stuff you don't want to hear. But his Instagram page, he does a show that's called That Ain't Right. And he just goes around and he gives you visuals of things that people do that just, I don't even know how you think that is how it's supposed to go in, but he puts a humor into it. And I like to see that. And I like to see kind of what you're doing with trying to put out quality. And I feel like there's a lot of people in the trades that are just trying to get stuff done. And especially now when it's busy, they're just trying to get things done. And what you don't want to do is lose the quality. And then you're giving framers a bad name, or plumbers a bad name, or electricians a bad name because you're not putting out good quality. So I do give kudos to the inspectors, 2 kudos to the guy that makes it funny. But kudos to you for pushing out the companies that are continuing to push for quality, because that's one thing that we don't want to drop, is that as well. And I'm sure all of your clients are super busy at this point, as it seems
definitely.
that all of them are. So if you're out there, homeowners or people that are looking for services, and your contractor says they're busy, they are busy like everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah, they are. There's definitely a backlog. I know there's construction going on in our neighborhood because where we live, we're in an area of gentrification. And right now we have, just down the block in Kitty Corner, we have construction going on some new row houses going in. And then up the street, there's a couple of duplexes going in because housing is so in demand, and there's not a lot of affordable housing around right now, and it's just crazy. But they're scraping around here. They're scraping and building.
Yeah, and you look at the little pockets of area, and there's been a lot of movement now, either mass exodus of some areas and in flooding of people to some areas. Like the housing market is all changing in those areas, which is kind of cool to see. I know that I mean, two of the bigger areas that I've heard is like Chicago or Illinois. People are leaving in drones, just like a mass exit of Illinois. And then, I mean, California was one where people were leaving and they were going to areas like Denver
Oh,
and
yeah.
like Texas. So you're getting a lot of transplant people in, and you didn't have the housing for it.
No. And it's really interesting how it's doing, because it's not typical of the real estate market historically.
Yeah.
Right? Because the real estate market historically has, 20-year cycles, and we're coming up on a 20-year cycle. And there's that flood to the city, and then there's the flood away from the city in those 20-year cycles. But over the last 10 years, actually almost 20, since 2008, rents have gone with the housing market up. And usually the housing prices and the real estate prices and the rental prices go opposite, and they're not. They're tracking together, which has been really weird.
Yep. So it's been hard with our rental side to try and get comps for rentals. It's been weird, and comps for homes, because kind of out of the stage now where we're in and losing battles of 30, 40 grand. So it's been a weird dynamic with everything changing and everything growing so rapidly, but should be coming back down. I'm excited to see what, it's weird to say, but 2023 brings.
Right.
2022 is kind of on its way out.
That's a fact. Well, I know the market here is slowing down. And one of the issues we had here of the housing price increase in the $30,000-$40,000 overpriced bids was due to investors from like California and Texas coming in and just outbidding people that were looking for a family home.
Yep. Yeah. There was a lot of big investors coming in, and if you were out looking for a house under 300, you weren't paying cash, probably not going to get it.
Well, you can't find a house in Colorado under 300.
Yeah,
well,
that is
Denver,
a big
anyway.
difference as well.
Yeah, you can't find anything under 300 in Denver, in the metro area. Even the small townhouses, the older ones, the townhouses, row houses are still going for like 350.
Yeah. So us Wisconsinites appreciate our home prices, because it's
I
not
bet.
like that everywhere. We've had people in from Canada who are agents in Toronto, and they're like, yeah, you can't find a condo for under $500,000. It's crazy.
That's nuts.
Wow, Toronto's up that high, huh?
Yeah, it's gotten big. It's crazy. I equate it to the New York of Canada. That's what it is in my head.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, we've had, I think, 3 agents on that have come and said the same thing, that everybody's going into the city and it's all condos and the prices inflated drastically. But
It is. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. We kind of just watch it.
Yep.
At this point.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, I do have I've saved the houses that I went and viewed that we lost offers on, just to see what happens with the home value, to see where those people are.
Yeah.
Because there were a couple where we put in the offer, I'm like, I kind of hope you don't get this, because I don't think this is a good idea.
Right.
And I want to see kind of where the home values go on that one and what we offered and how that all shakes out. Because it's easy to say, I don't think it's a good idea, but I don't think I've ever gone back and actually checked, like, was I right on that one or was I wrong?
For sure.
So I've like pinned them, and then I put what the offer price was so I can go back and check them. But
I think that's awesome. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
yeah, I need time though. That's like one where I got to like put on a sticky note and then put in my storage. And then the next time I go to clean it out in a year, I'm like, oh yeah, I should go back and look at those.
I'll just remind you, Marcus. No big deal.
There we go. Thank you.
Well, see, what you do is you get so like the calendar I have on the back of my wall here is you just put a map on your wall, because you have a blank wall right behind you.
Yep.
And you could put a map on the wall and put pins in with
Yep.
little little tiny sticker saying how much and the date.
And I actually have, I got to get my maps up. I got huge maps of the areas that I work in, and
Mhm.
I just need to frame them and hang them. But then I do kind of want to put like sticky notes on the areas and the places. I think that
Oh,
would be
definitely.
cool.
Oh,
But we'll see when I
definitely.
get those actually hung.
Well, it's kind of like the, those travel maps where you can put the pins on where you went,
Oh,
right?
Exactly.
I was in my son's bedroom. Yeah, he loves to travel. So
I remember having those, especially when the new quarters came out, and you could put a quarter in each state that you go to.
Oh, yeah, those open ones, they're kind of like the holiday calendars,
Yep.
25 days till Christmas.
Yep, those were awesome. I don't think I have any of those anymore, but when those quarters came out, I don't know how old I was, probably like a young teenager. I thought it was super cool, so I was trying to collect them.
Right?
Didn't even gone to the spot, but got to collect the quarter. So Victoria, let's get into what you do, because from what I gathered, for you don't just go in and you're saying, I'm gonna overhaul your company and I've got no background. You've flipped homes, you've worked in real estate, you've worked with these people, you've built this yourself, you and your husband, and now
Yes,
you're taking that and you're trying helping other people with their business as well. Is that correct?
that is. So we got into real estate back in 2004, well, actually probably 2005. So I started the coaching and consulting part of my business back in 2001. 2002, because it's 20 years this year I've been in business.
Wow, congrats.
Well, thank you. So we decided to start into real estate, and we started by going to one of these financial seminars where they have these big real estate people and then all this stuff. So
Yeah.
we did
Do you
some
like
real
those?
estate. Huh?
Do you like those conferences?
No,
Okay.
not
Some
anymore.
people like them, some people don't. I've been to a couple. I'm kind of 50-50 on them.
Well, the one thing that we learned, and a lot of people who want to invest in real estate, and we started that way, we'll go into these conferences, and then there's these guys that tell how to do fix and flips, how to make money in real estate, right? Well, there's a lot of good tips in there, but the one thing that we learned from those big education seminars and participating and buying into those is that while there's a lot of good information, there's a lot of old information. So they're teaching the success that they had from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And we just happened to get into it just before the market went all the way.
I was just going to ask how that affected your business.
Oh,
but
let's say it took us out of real estate for quite a while.
yeah.
So yeah, but it was an expensive education, but when you lose money in something like that, you have to look at what did we learn, right? So one of the key things that we learned is that your team is really important. And your team being important is having the right people doing the right things. And in real estate, it's so important when you start investing to have your team in place already.
Yeah.
Because we bought 3 row houses were the first ones we bought, and we ended up doing that 3 times. We had 3 different contractors, and we finally had the one that got it right. So
Really?
oh yeah. So we ended up missing our flip window completely on the property.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine with 3 people in there, that's got to take so much more extra time.
Yeah, 3 row houses, and we went on a recommendation of another real estate investor, and their person was not the type of person that was a fit for us and the quality that we wanted to do. They were a lipstick person.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's a big thing when you're vetting contractors, and this goes to any homeowner or someone hiring a contractor out there listening. You got to make sure they might be a good contractor, they might be a bad contractor, I don't know. but first and foremost, you got to see if they're the person that fits what you want. Like they might be great, but their style might not be what your style is. So they might do very good craftsmanship, but they might do it in a contemporary mode where you want farmhouse. Like you have to take what they've done, find examples of what they've done, see if that's kind of your style, if that's what you want to be done. And I don't think enough homeowners do that. I feel like they're scared to ask the question, or scared, or feel like they're going to offend somebody if it's not their style. Because there's been a couple people that I've talked to that it's not our expertise. It's not what we do. And I tell them that that's not what we do. I'll get you in contact with someone that you're looking for. And
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. Because when people don't tell you that that's not what they do, then there's that place, they're coming from a place of scarcity, right? And sometimes as, you know, as investors, as contractors, you want to help somebody out, right? So you meet somebody, you kind of like them as a person, they're kind of cool, and maybe they're having a hard time, and they go, oh, well, I'm a painter, or I'm this. And so you give them a chance, and then then it can go wonky.
yeah,
So it's really important to really do your due diligence in the relationship side of things. We talk about due diligence, there's the financial due diligence, there's making sure you can turn the property. If you're doing flips, so you can turn the property, have it in investment so you can make some money. Well, you can end up losing money by hiring the wrong people. Regardless, they've got to be a fit. You've got to do due diligence on the relationship side, not from the emotional side or just the financial side. You've got to really look at it and trust your instincts.
Yeah. And like you said, don't come from the scarcity. Go and find the contractor that you want. And especially if you're going to do this, if you're making this a business, you're going to do repeat work. So try and find somebody that's going to do what you need it to do, or what you need them to do to fit your scheme and what you're trying to get to.
Exactly.
So it is an important piece, and don't be fearful of pushing back or asking the contractor to clarify, or giving them pictures of what you want to see, and see if they can get to that style. Like that's not taboo to do. That's something that I would actually like to see. Like an idea board, that would be great. So you can give me some ideas of what you're looking for, and then we can be like, okay, yeah, we can do that. No, we can't do that. What you're asking for here is like custom. You need to go to like a cabinet shop to get this stuff. And then they can be like, okay, that's not something that I can put in my head unless I want to pay the dollars and go to this person to do that. I think it clarifies it a little bit up front rather than in the middle of the project and they get hit with, yeah, we can't do that.
Exactly. And one of the things too that's really important for people to know when it comes to hiring contractors or subcontractors or anything is that you have people that come in at a low price and you have people that come in at a higher price. Well, one of our lessons that we learned is it actually, with going through these properties with 3 different contractors that we'd hired, is the third one that we hired actually charged twice per hour what the others charged. And he did the work in half the time that the others were doing. The others were charged half, but they would take their, they weren't just in there getting it done.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is my husband was in there with them all the time as well. So he could see what was going on. And so, it made it easier for me to fire because I'm the manager of things.
Yeah.
He's the quiet one that hears everything that nobody realizes he's actually listening. So
you get to be bad cop.
Oh, I'm always the bad cop. Yeah, always the bad cop. But the last guy that we hired to get these finished, he had expertise in the type of properties because he'd done his teething on condos and row houses and houses in San Francisco. So the older ones, and these were 1908 row houses we did. And he came in and he was twice, maybe a little more than twice with the others, but we actually ended up spending less on him because he knew what he was doing. And you really want to hire people that have experience in the type of properties that you have as well, because it goes so much faster.
Yeah, it's important. And you can take all of those bumps in the roads and we'll call them errors in judgment, I guess, and then use it into the next chapter, which is now helping people avoid those situations.
Oh,
So
definitely.
when you get into helping someone trying to build a company, let's start from the beginning. How do you find these people? What is your kind of path with them? Like, how do you sit down and you say, okay, what do you do? Where do you want to go? Do you do like a roadmap, or how do you adjust and put your thumbprint on their path to success?
Well, so I have a framework that I work with, and when it comes to me, they're typically have people issues, or they have, sometimes there's opposing forces going on. Things aren't working very well oftentimes, or there's a place where the business hasn't been growing, right? So my whole thing is to start with them and see what they want to do, where they want to go, what are the challenges they're up against, right? And then we put a framework in. So in a success business, you always have, you have your marketing, you have your systems and processes that you need to have in place. And the piece that most people forget about is the people side of things.
Yeah.
Right? Is the cultural aspects. Are you structured at that level? Are you really clear on what you want your company to do? What is the contribution you're making to the community? And what are the issues you have with the people? And from there, I actually start every single client I start with we start with the mindset, and I start with whoever's in charge. And we get through with the mindset piece, because everything that's out in front of us, what I always say is it's an inside job and the outside shows us where to look.
Okay, it's an inside job, but the outside shows us where to look.
It is.
Okay.
Okay, so the outside world is a mirror of what's going on inside of us, what we believe and what we think, right?
Yep.
All of those things come together to create our perspective, and our reality is a view of our perspective that we have.
I would agree.
Okay.
I would agree.
So that's where I start. It's like, what are your expectations that you're not being clear about? Right? I have one client working on is specific enough about, so we're working on getting specific.
Yeah.
Right?
Is it a newer company, can I ask?
No, it's actually a 20-year-old company.
Really? Because I found, like, in the beginning, and I'll speak from my perspective, I was trying to take everything because I didn't want anything to pass me up. And then it was like, well, I don't even want half of this stuff. Like, it's not where I want to go.
Right.
And then we started to go backwards. And now it's kind of refined into like just taking the ones that we want and doing the things that we want to do. Because even if we stay in that lane, we've got enough. There's more than enough for us to do. We don't need the other things anymore.
Oh yeah, well, the specificity comes in. It's when you have your lane defined, that's great. The specificity comes in when you start building your team out bigger.
Oh, you're saying internally be like narrow, specific in what you're looking for. Exactly.
When you with your team, you have to be specific on expectations. It's no different than it's literally no different than being a parent.
Yeah.
You know,
it's difficult. And this is again, from me, being a parent and being a manager, easy for me to tell my kid, hey, go clean up your room. But when you're talking to another adult, it's like, man, I just want you to know that like when you're done, you clean it. That should
Yeah.
just be a thing. Like you're done with
Yeah.
the job, you clean up the spot.
Exactly. Well, and so that's what I do with my clients is we start from, what things are going wrong. We start, what are your expectations? And then how do we communicate? So communications is a part of it. And if things aren't going right, because people are people, and
Mhm.
there's 8 billion people on the planet, almost, and there's that many perspectives.
Mhm.
Nobody has the same perspective or the same expectations on anything.
Yeah.
We can be aligned with one another, but we don't have those. So part of it is getting clear on what those expectations are. And for you, it would be something like putting together a policy. This is how we approach a job for your subcontractors, for your employees. This is what the job looks like when we're done. This is what the expectation is, and they'll follow it.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, that's one
amazing.
thing that we did. We went through, I took all the crew from the job site, and then a couple, I know Natasha, you didn't come with us, but we did like a tour of homes.
Oh, excited.
You're in on the next one. You're in on the next one. So we finished a project. We had like a little day layover. So I scheduled a tour of homes, anywhere from like needs to be torn down, which is stuff we've done, like complete teardowns and rebuilds, to new builds. These people have like 5 model homes that they pick from. Those are the models you get. These are the finishings you get, kind of like a cookie cutter builder, but their quality is like 750 and up.
Right.
And we went in and we're like, this is the finished work. Take note of where the quarter round ends, how they do the bullnose edging, where the tile ends, like those little details. You need to note all of those things, because that's the quality we're expecting. And they've started to, once they're able to see the difference between, all right, what goes into a $250,000 home, what goes into a $500,000 home, and what goes into a 750 plus with finishing and quality. Now they got to visually see it, and they're like, okay, now I understand the quality. And now when we're on the job site, we can go through and be like, hey, is that going to pass? And they're like, no, it's not. I'm gonna redo it. I'm like, okay, thank you. And then, so like, that's an expectation that we've had to clarify and get out so that everybody's on the same page. And then, just one example that popped in my head from yesterday, we had one of our guys have car problems, and he called me in the morning and said, hey, I'm broke down on the road. I'm going to try to get it fixed, and I'll try to be in the afternoon. And he called me at about 1. And he's like, hey, I just got it done, but I know we've got the policy of 3 hours. Because if you're not going to be there for more than 3 hours, I just say take the day off.
Right.
Because it doesn't make sense for you to get on the job site, unpack everything, work for an hour and a half, and then pack it back in. Like,
oh yeah.
It doesn't, that's like my break even of just don't even do it. So he called, he's like, hey, I'm not going to make the 3 hour window, but I'll be in tomorrow. It's like, perfect. Those are things that I'm so glad we've got the expectation of, like, this is the rule and this is how we do it, that I don't need to keep going back and reminding. And the foreman doesn't have to keep going back and reminding. They just know that that's our system. So
Yeah.
those things that you're talking about are very important. It took me a couple years to actually get those in and working.
Oh yeah. And it's really worth the time.
Yeah.
Right. It really is worth the time. And as you grow, things like bringing in an HR person or hiring a fractional HR company is really important in the business as you grow. And one thing, I don't know if you did it, did you video when you went through that walkthrough of the quality?
No, I didn't.
That's something you might want to do another tour, but video the tour, because you're going to have people that change over.
Yeah.
And you want to keep the consistency, but you don't want to have to be the one to always be going through and showing that from those expectations. And you can talk to it, and then you can always add videos. But the next tour that you do, video it and talk to it. Just use your phone, if nothing else.
Yeah. And I think it'd be good to like put those into a little training video,
Mhm.
and they could go through the training video. So a new hire video, Natasha,
I was
would
just
be
gonna say, I
something
could
that
make the video for you, please. Give me
would be
some-
something Natasha would probably get working here
Yeah.
as we develop the training part of it, which again goes into HR as you get bigger and bigger and bigger. Things you need.
Yeah.
So we're going
Well,
through this
and
growing
the thing
pains.
is you want to actually get HR, at least have HR in your back pocket. There's a service, I have one of my power partners does HR, and they have a service where you can, it's for smaller companies where you can have somebody that can be the HR on call, and it's not super expensive, and it works really, really well. And the biggest mistake companies make of all kinds, all types, all sizes is when you're small, is assuming that you can handle the HR aspects. Because
I know I can't. I volunteer that one.
yay.
That one I can't do. I have no desire to handle HR either. It just sounds terrible. You do all the things that people don't want to do.
Right. Well, and the other one is saying that the person that does the payroll is the HR person. They're not. They're a financial person.
Mm-hmm.
So always have, the HR services of somebody that does HR work. They even help you with your HR policies and procedures to make sure you're on track.
Yeah. And what was the book? Was it E-Myth Revisited?
Oh yeah, that's that's like the Bible.
Yes. And that's what you're talking about, is kind of reminding me of that, where like right now I'm wearing like 20 hats, and I can take a hat off when I can find somebody to delegate it to. But it's got to be the right person that wants it. Like you're saying, being specific with that person. Because what I don't want to do, and I'm doing this again from my personal perspective, I've been in jobs where it didn't suit my personality. It didn't suit where I wanted to go. So I didn't do it well. Like I did it because that was the job. But again, I didn't have like that extra incentive to like go figure out more, go try and learn more on the topic. It was like, that's what you need to do. And I would do that and be done with it. But for people that like doing that, they'll do it and then they'll investigate a little bit more on why it's done, or what's coming up on the horizon, or what's going to change in the future. Those are the people that are like, all right, I'm passionate about this topic. And those are the ones that are going to be successful and drive the company forward, rather than the people that are just like, yeah, I'll take the paycheck and do what you need me to do.
Yeah.
Because that's
and
also
you don't
not
want
the
those.
culture that you want either.
Yeah. I mean, they're dead weight. They don't get the job done the way you want it to be done. And that doesn't work.
True. It is true. And then you just got to try and either part ways or find an avenue that they actually want to go down.
Oh, definitely. Well, and there's that, and besides what they're interested in, there's that culture piece, that there's that intangible. What does it feel like? What are those things? How do we act? How do we behave? Common values. What are the values of your, like quality is a key one for you, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. But what are the other ones of how we interact with each other? So those are some things to think about. Is over time, as you grow larger, it changes because more people come in, more perspectives, more different dynamics. So what do you want that to look like? And how do you ensure that those people on your team continue to mesh and integrate with the rest?
Yeah. Yep. And it gets harder and harder the more and more personalities and people you have in. So start specific in the beginning.
Exactly.
It's about what you got. So after you sit down with this owner and get their game plan going, you're like, okay, you got to be specific with these departments. Where do you take it from there? Or is it very specific to where they're at within their company?
It's very specific to where they're at within their company. And we deal with all of that. And then we start So we get specific with what are the current issues that you're working on, right? And working with them on their inner work, as well as strategies and tactics. And we have a 3-month goal. Where do you want to be at the end of the first 3 months? Because I work with my clients minimum of a year.
Okay.
Because when you're creating culture change, it can take 18 months to 3 to 5 years, depending on the size of your company.
Yeah.
Because you can't start a locomotive that's a 20-car train and get going really fast. It doesn't happen, right?
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, if you just had the engine, you could get there kind of quick, but you know, if it's big, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we start there, and as we get through those initial pieces, then what I do is we move into looking at, okay, so now that we've got the bleeding stopped and things are copacetic, so let's really create the future. And so we look at what is what is your vision? What is your mission? Because all my clients are mission minded, whether they want to improve the neighborhoods, the city look, or whether they want to make a great place to employ people, all sorts of different ideas where they want. But what does it look like? And then what do you want your company to look like? How long do you want it to live? What is that purpose? So we go deep in this piece, and then we really set the framework for the culture, codes of conduct, and what do you want that culture to look like. And then we do bring in people like HR. I've been known to help people fire people a lot.
Ooh, the fun job. More bad cop for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I am the bad cop. And the way I look at it, I'm here to uplift and champion my clients. And I am their champion, and I help them hold boundaries, because a lot of the problems in a company have to do with lack of clear boundaries.
Yeah.
And being able to hold them in a kind way. Some people have boundaries that they hold in a very antagonistic way. And that's because they're insecure about those boundaries. So they hold them nastily. And you don't have to.
Yeah.
Right? Or they don't hold boundaries because their own stuff is coming up.
Yeah.
So we get that really clear and start bringing it into alignment with that vision. So we bring everything into alignment with the vision, and that way they have a platform to go forward with that's clear and specific, and everybody that they hire can be on board. That way you hire people that drink the Kool-Aid, to quote people that were, DaVita is one of the companies, the kidney dialysis company. They created an entire village culture. I mean, theirs is really pretty cool, but people talk about it. Drink the Kool-Aid is what that company's about. Patagonia is another company that's got a really clear, defined culture. I don't know if you've read the book, Let My People Go Surfing.
No, I haven't. I'll add that to the list though.
Yeah, you do. And he's created his culture based on what he wanted. It's by Yvon Chouinard. And the thing is companies, you want people that drink the Kool-Aid. And to have people that drink your Kool-Aid and aren't there for just the job is, you've got to be clear on what you're about, because especially now, nobody wants to work for anybody that isn't clear about what they're contributing to the world. It's not just about making money. And people have left corporate because corporate was about just making the money, and that doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah. Which is good. I like to see that turn. I do. And it's funny that you said drink the Kool-Aid. I think everybody's heard that term. And I actually worked for a company, and that got bounced around a lot with, I would say, some of the people that weren't drinking the Kool-Aid. And I would say, seeing as I'm not with them, I was probably one that wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. But I'll say I loved the culture. I loved it. It was great. It was a weird day when I actually left them to go full-time real estate because I love doing both. But I wasn't doing both very well, so I made the switch over to one. And it actually was weird because I left them like 2 weeks before everybody got let go through COVID. So like it was kind of a blessing in the timing of it all. But yeah, people would always say like, oh, they drink the Kool-Aid. They only promote people that drink the Kool-Aid. Well, yeah, probably. I mean, that would make sense. You're buying into the company culture. So yeah, I would, that's a good thing. But they're saying it kind of as a bad thing. And the Kool-Aid that they're drinking wasn't poisonous. Like it was a good, healthy culture. It was positive. It was helpful. It was like everything you'd want from I mean, when I left, they were getting to be a bigger company. When I started, they were 50 to 70 people. And when I left, I think they were up towards like 700, maybe 1,000. Maybe 1,000's a bit high, but they were getting bigger and they were still true to what their mission was, which was helping communities, helping kids. I loved it. And there were people that were drinking the Kool-Aid and that went over and above to get their jobs done. But it was a good mission and it was a positive sentiment that they were putting out.
Yeah.
So like I thought, yeah, let them drink the Kool-Aid. It could be way worse. They could be in medical sales and then just be pushing that. And that's never, it's hard to drink the Kool-Aid for me on that one.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is anything that we look at in the world everything has a positive and negative side.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that if the Kool-Aid is a negative thing for you and it's a positive culture that's diverse and allows people to show up as to who they are, it's a positive thing. The negative thing is if it becomes a exclusionary culture, then the Kool-Aid is a negative. But when you're embraced and your talents are embraced, that's a positive.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is important to at least create Kool-Aid, like create the culture. You got to create it, which is something that gets overlooked when you're beginning, because when you're beginning, you're like just trying to make money. Like this is all new. I don't even know what I'm just trying to do what I want to do. And traditionally in the trades, people just they want to do roofing because they've done roofing forever. They know how to put the roof together, but they haven't built a cohesive group or team that is now going to do that more and more and more. So like, and again, they say it in E-Myth Revisited, going to stop working in your business and work on your business.
Exactly.
And that's a huge transition mentally that I know I went through and that I've heard from other business owners that they've had to go through, because that is directly correlating into your company culture, your processes, your front of the house stuff, I would say.
Oh, definitely. It's the front of the house. It's the back office. It's all of those pieces. And what's really interesting is, my clients have been in business a minimum of 3 years, but usually longer. They find me anywhere from being in business 3 to 20 years. And the thing is that when you have a small business, people think of culture as for the big guys, the corporate guys. We don't think about that till we're there. And that's where people get into trouble. That's why a lot of small businesses have issues, is because they never think about the culture. Because the most valuable resource and the most expensive resource that you have in a company is your people.
Yep. Yeah.
And
if you go through any P&L statement on the company, you're going to see your biggest expense is your people.
Exactly. And they try to, and when you are under issues, it's like, okay, we got to lay off people. Well, you got to look at, what's your culture? Did you hire to throw bodies at something? Right? Oh, we got to get this done faster, so let's hire more. Yeah, that's not necessarily what you need to do. You
Yeah.
need to have the right people. And so it's really important to look at it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's true. We're coming up, we have like 5 minutes left, but I wanted to touch on some of the future things you do. Do you go into like estate planning with them, or if they want to go into like employee ownership type things, or do you have resources that they look at if you guide them in that direction? Because you were
Yes.
talking about legacy. So what goes into the legacy part for you? For them?
Okay. So when people think about legacy, they think about your financial advisor, your estate planning, all of those things, and going into whether you want to have it employee owned. So what I do is the pre-work that everybody gets confused and doing when it comes to succession planning and legacy planning. So it's really identifying those pieces we talked about earlier is what do you want? And then going to what do you want from the company? What do you want? And what do you want for the company, which we've done that work. And we bring it all together. That way they have something, and I have resources, the financial advisors that deal with legacy and businesses, as well as attorneys that I can refer people to, because there's a difference between the legal and the financial implementation of things and the what do you want. And oftentimes people will set things up with attorneys that actually won't give them the results that they want.
Really?
That they really want.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a hard thing to set up as a business owner, or just in general, a hard question to answer. What do you want out of the company? I'd have to put this show on pause and try to think about what I actually want,
Right.
because I don't know. It's a very hard question to narrow down into one overall thing.
Yeah. And the thing is yeah, getting to that is not easy, right?
Yeah.
So that's what one of the things I do with my clients is we get to that piece, because underneath your company will perform in the way that you're unclear. So no matter how good you set things up, if you're not in consideration in there, if the lifespan of your company, because your company eventually becomes its own entity, separate from you.
Which is kind of cool.
It is.
I think that's a cool dynamic.
It is. And is it going to be the kind of company that you want? Is it going to have the values that you want? And are you going to feel like you fulfilled what you're here to fulfill the way you've set it up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And are you going to know when that hits? That's the other part. Because it's already started to take like a mind of its own. And especially having like the foreman in that's going to run the day-to-day job sites. I'll come in and he'll run me through all the things that little tweaks or changes or things we get through, which is great. But him and I are on such a good communication path that like usually I know what's going on and how he thinks about problems and how he problem solves. So full trust in him. But yeah, it's starting to take its own little route, which is, a very cool thing to see. But then I'll get back in my truck as I'm leaving. I'm like, this is weird. I didn't have to do anything. Like problems happened that I didn't even know of. They solved them all. I'll just keep going.
Yeah. And that's awesome, because your foreman has that autonomy and you've created a healthy relationship. And how can you keep that relationship, that type of thing going and building throughout the company?
Yeah.
When you have another foreman come on board, right? Making sure that foreman has the right way of doing things that fit with your company, and will treat their people like this foreman treats his people. So
yeah, and there's going to be a lot of cross communication. The other foreman's going to talk to the foreman we have now, and the other, I'll call them laborers, are going to talk to the other laborers about how they do things. And okay, where is this tool, or when you put this on, how do you guys install it? And if we already have a weak link here and they translate news to this new person, now the weak link just got doubled and now 2 people are doing it wrong. And now if it gets bigger, 10 people are doing it wrong. And now it's a snowball that's just out of control. And then we get the next 18 months to try and correct it.
Yeah, that's very costly.
It is very costly. And that's why it's just trying to get in now. And that's why we did the tour of homes, because you put in the money to take them in and show them all the houses, but hopefully they get the gist of what it all is and where we expect things, so that now that they talk to people, they'll get them on par with where they're at.
Yeah.
The existing.
And your
employees.
training, when you get those training videos in place, those will help even more.
Yeah. With our last minute, would you be able to give us either like a word of advice or maybe a commonly seen problem that you've worked with other owners? Like, what's something that usually always comes up with either someone who's early on or maybe 20 years in, that there's just a common problem that every business owner overlooks? And don't give us the secret sauce, but is there something that you commonly see that's like always looked over, where it's like, man, if business owners could get this under wraps, what would that be?
The biggest thing is that when the problems hit, it's not about the economy. It's not about that person. It's not about everything else in the world that's happening out there. When challenges hit, it's really tendency for owners to go into the victim place. And you're not a victim. You're just not, you didn't see or set yourself up to navigate through these challenges. So what do you need to do for you, inside you, in your head, so that you can actually be creative and solve the problems?
Yeah.
And make the changes that you need to make. That is the common thing.
Yeah, it is true. And I know that we've ran into issues just like every other company. What's difficult, and as you said that, I'm seeing it now where, okay, we had a problem and I knew it was a problem, but we had so much other things to do that I was like, well, I'll fix it when we get there again, I'll fix it. And now we got through all the problems we had to get through, and you circle back and you're like, what was that problem again? And how could we have fixed it? Because I'm not in the moment, and it's not like, it's not clear, it's not fresh. Where if that problem came in, I pressed pause, I started to work on the business, fixed it. And then as we go to the next one, we've already repaired the process that got us in this position. So taking the time, taking the pause to like actually fix and analyze the problem going forward, I think would be a huge thing for that. Because I know what you said, we've lived. And I don't think fully have, I don't know, set the time aside to fix it fully in the moment.
Yeah, because it exponentiates.
Yeah.
Right? And you feel like you're blindsided or hit over the head with a cosmic 2x4. That's only because you ignored or avoided whatever happened before that got.
Yeah.
Even if it was an intuitive hit, I need to take care of this and we need to do this differently.
Yeah.
You ignored or avoided something.
Yeah. And even if it's something you didn't see and there's no one to blame for, it just came up. Like, let's say you left something out of your contract and you actually got put in a situation that's not spelled out in your contract. Well, we got through it in that job. We finished the job, but did we edit the contract? So that next time it's in there. And that's like one of those situations where it's like, all right, take the time out, fix what the issue was, so that when you go forward, it's not there anymore.
Exactly.
Type of situation.
And as the owner working on your business, your job is to be looking at things like, what can we do? What things can we add to our business? Other streams of income, should the real estate market start tanking, or, you know, it does. I mean, the real estate market tanks every so often. It
It
tanks.
does. It does.
Right? So what can we do? I have one client who's implementing an apprenticeship program. So it's a revenue
cool.
source that not only can she put her own people through, but she can apprentice and put other people through. And she's a plumbing company. So it's like, okay, so we created an apprenticeship program. Well, then she has a school, basically right there, an apprenticeship program and an education program that other people, other companies can send their people through.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
cool.
working even with their competitors. So what can you do to recession economy proof your company?
Yeah. That's a
Right?
cool idea, that apprenticeship thing.
Yeah. She came up with it. I thought that was a great idea.
No, you take the credit for that one.
Well, the thing is what I do for my clients is I see where they're at and I help open them up to other possibilities. And together we brainstorm and mastermind. And it's amazing the things that come out of that.
That is cool. And I think I know you talked about the conferences and the real estate conventions and all that stuff, but sometimes it does pay to just get the one-on-one help. And you were even saying like they offer fractional positions, fractional HR, fractional CFO, fractional COO, like all of those things. If you're small and you don't want to take on the full salary of those positions, there's fractional people out there that'll help you and give you like the little bit of hours that you need to get your locomotive to keep rolling.
Exactly.
It's out there. So for anybody listening that is a business owner that wants to push their company, contact Victoria. And what is the best way for them to contact you, by the way?
Well, my company's name is Heart and Soul CEO. They can contact me through the website, which is heartandsoulceo.com, or LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. And they can call my business phone, which is 720-663-9057.
Awesome. And we're going to put all the stuff in the show notes too. So if people are listening and they want to get in contact with you, you can either take it from the podcast or go in the show notes to get the info. And then also we're going to drop a link in for the E-Myth Revisited. Because I think it's going to be a good book for anybody to read if you're in this position. If you're early on your company, I would give it like a flashing red light, like you need to read the book.
Yeah, it's an absolute requirement when you're starting to build a company. You know, there's a big difference between being a contractor that just goes out to people. And that's how a lot of people start their business. It's just, I'm a contractor. Well, you're just a consultant contractor that just gets paid hourly. Well, E-Myth Revisit is like, starts on that path. What are you creating? What kind of a company are you creating?
Yeah. It's a really good resource. It's a few dollars on Amazon. Definitely recommend doing that.
It's the best investment they can make when they're especially starting. And if they haven't read it, they need to read it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you very, very much for being on the show. Good luck in your ventures. And I know that you had a sneak peek that you're getting back into real estate. So we may have to have you back on to see how that journey is going as well.
Definitely.
Well, very cool. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'm going to call it a weekend, even though we're not there yet.
Well, almost.
Almost. A few hours.
Yeah.
And we will talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. It was a pleasure.
Thanks
for
have
having
a good day.
me on. Okay, bye.
Bye.